Good evening, everyone. It's Sunday night, getting ready to start out another week. Woo! Not really, but hey, we're gonna make it through it, right? And good evening, Miss Trish. How are you doing tonight? So we got a fun show tonight. We're gonna talk about 3D printing, something that I am so. Yes, I know you need a chibi now. We're hoping for the mock-ups of that tomorrow. It's gonna be super awesome, and it's super cute too. It's totally adorable. I love the chibi, man. It's awesome. So what I was talking to Lewis about. I was like, man, I want it to be super awesome but cute too, because chibis are awesome like that. But anyway, so we're going to talk about 3D printing tonight, something that I'm kind of excited about because we're working on getting this dude right here in all his glory done into a paint your own sculpture. And maybe I'll paint one of them and sell it painted. So we're working on that, trying to figure things out. And I'm really excited about it. So this is going to be a great show. It's something that really pertains to everyone. Yeah, you need 3D stuff now too. Yeah, so this will really pertain to a lot of the Kickstarter crowd. So anybody that's coming back and watching the show, definitely check this out. Definitely listen to what the guy has to say about some of the stuff that he can do because he prints some really cool stuff. But without further ado, we'll talk more about it and we'll bring out Mark Tant with Tant 3D Prints. How you doing tonight?
Doing good, sir. Having some trouble with the video though.
Oh, are
Showing.
you?
Yeah.
It's not showing you the video again?
No, you need to leave and come back.
It's up to you, man. If you want to, you can real quick. If you want to refresh, it's no big deal. So that's one of the cool things about 3D printing. So one of the reasons why I wanted to bring him on here is everybody is into the nerd stuff, Pokemon, all that cool stuff. This stuff right here, Pokemon. Um, you can print out little 3D sculptures of Bulbasaurs and cool stuff like that, and you can. Hey, what's going on, Lewis? So everybody, he's refreshing and coming back. He lost video, so we should be good to go here now.
Yep.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Gotta love technology, don't you? It's come so far in the 21st century. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited about this, man. 3D printing is so cool because you can take something that costs a crap ton of money, like getting resin, statues, and stuff done,
Mhm.
and make it for way cheaper to where stuff's actually affordable. And that was one of the things that I was really excited about with doing the project was like I want to do something that would be really cool, like have a uh, action figure or something with the Kickstarters, and like with each book in the trilogy include another weapon or something cool that that was like, hey, I got this, but I want this, and if I back it day one, I would get this super awesome battle axe that fit in the hand. And then
Mhm.
I went and I was like, oh, here's a company that does action figures, and it's like, welcome to our site. We only offer orders in the minimum quantities of 1,000, and we need 50
Oh
grand to
wow.
start. And I'm like, yeah, no, this is never going to happen, And well, I get it. You got to make everything. You got to make the hands, the arms, everything is articulated. And, you've got all these molds that you have to create. So, creating an action figure is super duper expensive. And so, the next alternative is to do 3D printing. And so when I seen that you're, looking for ways to, show off your wares, I was like, heck yeah, let's have you on because, this is your place. People are going to
Mhm.
be wanting to get their own stuff made for their own characters and stuff like that. What's going on, Dan? Welcome, Mike. Hey, Lewis. And no, the mini donuts they're still cooking. So you
Mhm.
know you're going to get mini donuts when your package comes. Just so you know. So I'll let you take the floor. I'll let you talk to about how you got into 3D printing.
So actually, almost what you mentioned is what happened to me is I wanted terrain for a game I called a game I played called Pathfinder, which is a spinoff of D&D based on 3.5 version. And the terrain was just so expensive, especially if you looked at Dwarven Forge, you're looking at hundreds and of hundreds of dollars in order to just make one terrain. So when I first started looking into Dragonlock, which is an STL file that you can buy and print your own stuff, I was like, I gotta get me a 3D printer. Um, and that's what I first started off with actually. And I started off and I have some Dragonlock stuff here, which this is like part of a tower. Which normally, if you were to buy a portion of a tower at Dwarven Forge, you're looking at $40-$50, where you can print it for $1 instead.
Yeah.
And then my buddy, he's big into Star Wars, and he's all into vintage Star Wars stuff. He has a whole museum in his garage, and he said maybe you should look into printing some of the reproduction stuff for items that are just lost and missing. And these items that are needed are if you buy vintage at missile at Walker Missiles, you're looking at anywhere from $40 to $50, where I can print them and sell them based on my time for like $6 or $5. And once I started doing that, I started realizing how much more other reproduction items are missing out there. So I started going to making that stuff.
Yeah, like I see one of the things that was available was like the land speeder wings.
Yes, you're talking about the speeder bike flaps.
Yeah, speeder bike flaps. Yeah.
So I designed this one myself. It's a little speeder bike flap, and that took a good whole weekend to design. And I was impressed because there's actually nobody else that even does the speeder bike flaps like these that are out there right now. So yes, when I put those on eBay, a lot of people hit me up. And it actually opened up more doors because they're like, "Hey, can you make this other speeder bike items?" And like, or other at Walker items, and that kind of opened it up. And then I'm also a police officer. I've been an officer for 9 years, and we had a lot of civil unrest back in June, July, based on recent events the events that most officers didn't even agree with, but we still had to be out there, holding the line. And this actually helped me reduce the stress, taking time, building stuff with my hands. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to make items that would relate to police officers and my, nerdum as well. And that's when I started making items like the Punisher skull, which everyone kind of liked, and it's been it usually represented military, but it came over and started representing police officers too. So that's why I started going off into the Punisher side and making different thin blue line items like that. And then I kind of just let my nerd creativity wander and build a bunch of different random things.
Yeah, like you've got one of the things you got the little Bulbasaur planter that you sell.
Yes.
You got it's a little plastic Bulbasaur, and you actually plant something in the back of it.
Yeah. So my wife, she I guess even though she does not have a green thumb, she's been wanting different items for her. I'm trying to think what they're called. It's not succubus. That's nerd in my head. What's the little plant? That's
Cactus?
No, it's not a cactus. It's a
Succulent.
Yeah, succulent. That's what I made the Bulbasaur plant
So
for.
succulent planter.
And then she started making me. Once she saw what I can do, and my daughter saw what I can do, and then they're like, "We want all this other items that you can print this." So my daughter started wanting me to print her items for her dollhouse, which actually became popular as well, because she's big into the American Doll Girl. I don't know if you've heard of it, but apparently it's a big thing that I knew nothing about.
Oh, it's a big thing, all right. I mean, you're talking like the dolls are, $100-$200, and
Yeah.
you go to get a dress for it, it's like $115, and
Yes.
I'm like, people really spend that on dolls.
I couldn't believe it myself, but then I wanted to furnish her house without losing mine, so I decided to print her stuff for her own little house.
Yeah, which with the one that I thought was really cool is you did the little TV, and then like we were talking about before the show, your wife does the cricket stuff, and so she cut that out with vinyl and stuck the vinyl in there, so it actually says Netflix on the TV.
Yes, and I even made a little remote to go with it too. That way, but she liked it. I think because I have different items here laid out. I think my favorite item, which is actually one I haven't even sold of. I've never sold one of these items, but I wanted just different nerd items, and this is actually I made a sword, and I
And it's a
actually made
dice
it.
holder.
Yeah, well, it's actually gemmed in there, so it's actually just for cosplay because they're gemmed in there, and then the hilt is the guard is dice, and the pommel is a dice,
That's
and I made
awesome.
all that originally myself as well. But I mean, some stuff you just kind of make it for yourself, and then hey, if people like it, then they'll
Sure,
buy
I'll
it.
make one. Yeah,
If they're not, then I have a cool sword.
that's right. And so Trish has a question. She said, "Is there a limit on size?"
So it's all based on what printer you buy. I went with an Ender 3 Pro, which is I actually went with two of them because I bought the first one and I liked it so much I bought the second one. Now the Ender 3 Pro, it's a great printer and it's cheaper because you have to build it yourself. So it comes in a kit basically that you have to print. You have to assemble yourself, and your print, how much you can print, is based off of the size of the printer, and then the volume of how high it is. So about 8 by 8 by 9 is your print space for this particular printer. Now I am looking at getting a bigger printer that way. As you saw the sword, if you look in there, it's basically split like right here and then right here. So what I had to do is I had to add insert holes in order to connect them and have it stable still. So it's not all one piece.
Okay, so
It's
it's kind of like a Lego where they interlock together.
Yeah. So it's actually one, two, and then three pieces. So it's three pieces total. So that does add a little bit more difficulty to when you do your designs because you have to, incorporate how are these pieces going to interlock together and how is it going to still function.
Yeah. And so Trish wants to know how much something like that sword costs.
The sword, I believe I sell for about 55, but like I said, I haven't sold one yet. I base all my printed items basically on how long it takes to print them. Um, and that's why I said I think it's 55. Um, and the reason why is because basically what I do is however long it takes to print in hours, I usually do about $2 an hour for printing it. So, for instance, this is like a Star Wars backdrop. This alone took about 8 hours to print.
Oh,
So, so I would have to charge $16 for not just the material wise, but also the wear and tear on the machines. Because if if you ever worked in a factory and you had to deal with these machines, you know that you have to do weekly and monthly maintenance, and then you have to replace parts on a regular basis as well. So that kind of helps with the wear and tear of the machines.
and Trish asked, "Do you have a channel to show us how to do this?" I guess what she's asking is, do you like have a YouTube channel where you show off, the stuff that you
Um,
print? And I do know you used. Dang it, I can't think of the name of it. Go ahead. Whatever
so
that TikTok.
I'm on, yes, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I was doing a lot of different videos on TikTok, but for some reason they limit who gets to see what. They're very controlling on what gets put out there, so it's very hard. I don't have a YouTube channel yet, just because I feel like my following wasn't big enough to do one yet. But I mean, I that's something I need help in because I don't have all the help for the social media, but I do have the Facebook and the Instagram that I do post different videos on, especially my newer items come out, and I'll do different videos to show clips of it being printed and stuff as well.
And then Trish said, "So is it better for large quantity of stuff to order from you or try on our own?"
Do you mean like if you have one particular item and you need 100 of those items?
I think that's what she's asking. I think she's asking, is it better for a large quantity of items to try to have you print it or for them to try to do it on their own?
It's really up to what your expertise skills are. Um, there is a learning curve for 3D printing. So you do, if you look on any of your social media about 3D printing, they're going to basically tell you it's all about the leveling of your machine, which is if you look at the machine, you have dials down here that go basically all the way around, and you have to get the leveling of that right in order for it to print right. But then you have other issues. So you have, what do you do if there's a clog? What do you do if you have a bad filament anyways? Because sometimes your filament is bad. So of course I'm going to say yes, order from me. But
she says for like keychains, and then she says my skill is my debit card, so no skills at all. Just
yeah. So for keychains, I do sell a variety of keychains. That's actually what one of my biggest items was I was making a bunch of different thin blue line, heart keychains, Punisher, Spartan. And what I would do, for instance, to kind of cut down the costs, I print multiple off at a time. And this is actually a fun little display. In order to print a little better, it's actually like a fake piece of plastic that you print down, and it comes off and it's a little bit smoother. So when I sell keychains, even in a large quantity, let's say if someone ordered 10 to 20, I would not even charge shipping. Then it'd be about $5 each per keychain. So if you're trying to obtain a large quantity to resell yourself, I mean, then you might want to look into it, because there's not that cost break. There's not that overhead in this type of manufacturing in order to sell it to somebody to resell themselves.
yeah, there's not enough way to get a quantity break where they're going to be like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to pay $250 for these, and I can turn around and sell them for $7.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, you're going to sell them for $6 or $7, and it's going
Mm-hmm.
to cost you $5 a piece, so it's really
Yeah.
not worth it.
I mean,
And
and there might
Trish,
be people that do that.
yeah, and the reason why Trish was asking, she was thinking like 100 for Kickstarter stuff, because that was
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I immediately thought of when I seen you asking around for ways to market your stuff, and I'm like, dude, Kickstarters, man. I'm like,
Yeah.
people do Indiegogo, they do Kickstarter, they do the crowdfunding scene, and it's like, how cool would that be to be like, hey, print out my character as a keychain, or hey, print out these
Mm-hmm.
statues, or hey, print out this, or hey, print out that. Which, of course, there comes the hard part, Trish, is getting the art or the artist that is doing the art for what you're wanting to be able to render it into a 3D file, or a file that now pictures and stuff can be rendered into a flat file though, right? That you can print for like the keychains.
So, for instance, someone had a flat file, and it was their logo, and the flat file to go into, it's not 3D, but I'll just show you. So, for instance, this was a flat image photo, and it came out really great. All I had to do was I took that 2D photo and I made it thick enough. So, for instance, if you were to take, let's say, a flat photo and make that just thick enough to be a keychain, then that's pretty easy. But when you get into take this flat photo and make it a three-dimensional item, then that's that's a little bit harder.
Yeah. And that's a part of the thing that we were going through with this, was turning it into an STL file. And then so we turned it into it, and then like it came over and it was like, hey dude, all I got is just the head. Like it doesn't do us any good. Like we're gonna print out this head. And like, hey everybody, we've got this head.
I can print the head.
We put a wig on it and put it on a stick and just build the rest of the character yourself. We don't know how to fix it from here. Oh man. So yeah, I mean that's what was cool about it. It's like, you could do, take these flat files and turn them into keychains and stuff like that. Hey, what's going on, Cameron? Thanks for joining in. So yeah, I mean that's what I was like. I was like, dude, this is awesome. I'm like, there's so much potential as long as you have somebody that knows what they're doing,
Yeah.
can make the files to do it. Or like that person wanted to take their logo. Like it would be cool as heck to do the picture for mine and like do like the raise thing with the explosions, which would be difficult probably. But I mean, there's a lot of cool things that you can experiment with it, and like the sky's the limit as far as learning how to make certain stuff. Russ on a stick. I love it. I'll buy one. Get out of here.
And I seem to notice that too. Is it's when I mention learning curve, I feel like I'm always learning something new about 3D printing. You really don't stop learning. It's always something different, especially just the designs. Because most of my designs I use Tinkercad, which is a learning design system for kids, and it's to get them into incorporate into how to make designs themselves. I just use it because one, it's easy for my computer to run. And two, it's easy for someone that didn't know much about designing to work and use.
But yeah, it is, and it's it sucks. When we were young, we didn't have this kind of cool stuff to tinker
Mhm.
around with because now it's like this stuff is out, and it's like, man, it's really expensive. Do I want to go out and get one and try to make stuff with it or not? Especially with me having two toddlers, the thing would be destroyed. I get home and there'd be a giant blob monster. Look what we made, Daddy. I'm like, oh my god, then where's the whole roll of filament?
That's actually like an ongoing joke in the 3D print world is whenever you mess up and for instance, let's say the filament does not stick to the bed, which happens regularly. Well, not regularly, but it does happen to everybody.
Yeah.
Well, if you're walked away from that printer, when you get back to it, it's going to look like a tumbleweed. When you get back and if you post in one of the 3D printing groups, people ask, "What's the STL file for that?"
Oh, that's great. And then so Trish was asking, how much in total does a system like that cost with supplies and everything?
So when I first started, the printer cost $240, but I think they dropped it down to $210, and that's on the Creality website. And then your filament, which obviously you're going to need one for each different color. They range anywhere from 20 to 30, and there's even especially ones that cost a lot more than that per roll. And inside a roll, you usually get I think it's a thousand kilograms, no 1 kilogram, so 1,000 grams of on this fuel. And it just depends on what you're printing, how much it's going to use.
Yeah, and granted, one of the things, Trish, too, to keep in mind is it's the color platform as far as making stuff is limited. So some of the pieces that he's shown tonight, like the tile and like the castle walls and stuff, that's been painted. So I mean, there's not really a whole lot of
So
like
this is like the base color of a gray that was for the tile, and then this is actually one of my favorite items because it lights up. But then that's painted. Yeah.
So what did you add? Like an LED to that?
So this actually comes apart. It's actually multiple pieces, and then this is like the inner side cavity, and this is the torch little hole, and it comes out and has a battery, and then inside there is your torch, and then there's an LED inside there.
That's awesome. And you designed all that on your own, or is that stuff that's available that you can buy online and then you can print it yourself?
So all the Dragonlock stuff is actually on Dragonlock, and I'm licensed through them, so I can sell this. Most people that do the Dragonlock stuff, it's just so much cheaper for them to do it themselves, and the files are there. You can go there and buy the files. So all the Dragonlock stuff, that's their files that you can buy, and then you can license out to print it yourself and go online. And some people print this stuff really cheap. They go down to $1 to 50 cents a print hour, but they must have also a print farm where they have hundreds of printers so they can do that
stuff. Yeah.
Whereas the sword and the Punisher keychain and a lot of the other Star Wars items, those are all my designs. And if I did get the design off another website, most of the stuff I redesign myself to kind of make it my own. For instance, one of the biggest areas to get files is Thingiverse. And when you go on Thingiverse, it's designers that they put their designs up there to share. And some of them say you can't resell this, so obviously you can't use that. And then other ones they don't care. There's like, here's design I made. I want to share it with the world, and if you want to print and sell it, go ahead.
And then Trish said, my daughter needed a third arm and tried getting one 3D printed and quoted us $500. Hey, Wendy, how's it going? So Wendy's the one that we're working with. We're trying to figure this thing out
Okay.
with getting this where it's not coming over just the head. Like, so
I need the whole body.
So it's funny because I'll send it over to him, and then like a day ago or so will go by, and I'll get this screenshot of like, hey man, all I got was the head, and I was like, oh. And then so we thought we had fixed it, and then when you sent me over, like, hey man, it's still just a head. I'm like, oh no, what are we gonna do? So Wendy's super excited about this. She's like, oh my gosh, we got to figure this out. She's like, I've always wanted a piece of my art to be like a 3D sculpture. I want to see what it would look like. And she's like, so we got to figure this out. So maybe when Wendy can shoot you a friend request, Mark, and then, you guys can figure this whole kerfluffle out. Because
hopefully. And if anything, maybe we can, yeah, it looks like your character has a lot of different weapons there. Maybe we can print just some of the weapons out and see how those look.
That would be awesome. That would be freaking sweet.
Like you on that sword. I think I can make that sword.
Oh man, that would be awesome. Yeah, because I mean that's the cool thing. So one of the things about she said let's connect after so we can get the whole body over there. So yeah, I mean that's one of the cool things about Xeno Nanite Titan, is he acquires the suit and the weapon's made out of magnesium, so it's a fluid metal that's indestructible and it can be superheated. So throughout the story, it goes from the sword there, and then like some of the pieces you'll see on there. He's got a whoops, I'm getting ready to kick myself out of here. I'm fired. Kick me out. So like this one, you'll have the one with him. It's a battle axe. And this was one of the cool designs. I was like, hey, let's do a battle axe. And I'm like, I want it to have like a sieve at the bottom. So like, he could hit somebody with the axe and then come upwards with it and just like gut somebody, whatever you needed it for. Sorry, we got a little violent there for a second. And then you got the, the different style sword, and it was really cool seeing the artist's different takes on doing the pieces for them. And then you got, of course, our piece we're trying to turn into a 3D model here. But yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun, and it's like, that's what's so cool about 3D printing. It's just, when we were kids, we thought like, man, it'd be so cool if we could make stuff. And it's like now the stuff is available, and it's like we want to be kids again. Like let's just like make all kinds of stuff, print like hundreds of GI Joes, and just take them outside and blow them up.
So I made this just for fun, just because I could. So I tried to make him like a double-sided dagger sword just to make.
Well, that's pretty cool.
And of course, I had to add in the thin blue line too, but I'm all about, I'm a big geek into a bunch of different weapons as well. So when it comes to swords or dragon swords, it's like I kind of enjoy as well. So when you mentioned battle axe, I was like, started making me think of how can I make a dwarven war axe?
Oh yeah, or a war hammer. You got the axes with the hammer on the opposite side. So, and what's really funny is seeing that double-sided dagger that you just showed. It made me think of American Gladiators with the sticks, the big poofs on the end, because it's got the blue lines on it. And then so Trish said, so how much is a figure? Because we have a lot of friends with different comics, and also, do you do cons to show your wares? Like, do you have an Etsy store, an eBay name? How do we find you? So it's Tant 3D Prints on Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok on Tant 3D Prints. And I also do have a website as well. It's called tant3prints.square. I think it's .square.site is the website. And on there, I have a lot of my items, most of my items on there as well. As far as the figures, it really depends on what the figure is. Now, if the figure is so intricate and has a bunch of different, geometrical curves that just won't be right for this type of 3D printing, then you might have to look into a resin print. I have not gone to any cons. I've went to several local comic book conventions, especially ones that had vintage type items, just because my buddy's so into Star Wars vintage items. She's like, hey, we're going to this comic book convention and they have a bunch of Star Wars items, so we're going. And then I've also been to, because a lot of my items go with police, I've been to police conventions as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the other things that you make too. You make those dump boxes too that are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like you got the Punisher one, and
this is kind of like the outside. I had the skulls to the dump box. And this is actually my first prototype, so they actually did not come out good. This is you can see kind of like the plastic is lifting up. But yeah, this is a dump box, and then it has the Punisher on the inside. And then on my later models, I added the thin blue line going into it. And that's actually what this is for too. This actually comes off, and this is when I made this dump box design. This insert actually for the base model comes out, and this pops right in. So I can have a bunch of these sitting around, and anybody that wants their type of logo into a dump box, I can just pop it in there, and here you go.
shell catcher. So Danny said shell catcher. And for those of you wanting to know, there's the link. I popped it in there. Everyone on Facebook, YouTube, all over the place. You got the link there. And Trish said, sorry to keep asking stuff, but your stuff is so interesting. And I agree. That's why I was excited about you being on here, because there's a lot of
information that I can't just come out from the top of my head, but I do have the information. I need those questions in order to display it.
Well, no, I mean, it's something that's so intricate that there's so much to it. And it's like, if you're not familiar with 3D printing, there's just like, it's like, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming. But, so what are some of the other things that you've made besides like the dump boxes and the keychains and the swords? I know you've made like the 3D printed replica parts for the Star Wars land speeders. And you also did the Darth Vader lightsaber, and you made the other lightsaber too. I've seen that on your site.
Yeah, so actually the lightsabers, I made lifestyle replicas of the original vintage ones. So the one with like the double telescope, and I actually blew that up to real size, and that's another one that takes multiple prints. And I think that was my first long print. That one took probably about 25 to 30 hours to print total.
Wow.
Yeah, and there was some trial and error in that one too. And also, which I have in front of me, I actually made a kids game called Revenge of the Hare. And I designed these little guys myself. Here is the turtle. Here is the hare. And I made this kids game so that way they can, in the game, you use a tape measure and you use dice, and each character has their own set of dice. And you play on the floor, basically. And you measure out where you're going to have your finish line, which is printed as well. And the kids take turns. The hare gets to go first. And they roll their specific dice, which the hare has a 2d6, and the turtle has a 1d12. And they take turns racing towards the finish line. And I didn't realize how competitive this game was going to be until I played with my little one, and she not only enjoyed it, but then got very competitive while playing, and she won several times. I don't think I've beat her yet, actually.
Yeah, and I love it. You know, it's a great thing because it's something kids need to learn on an early age is how to use a tape measure. You know,
Yes.
or using measuring because it's confusing. You know, especially with most of them because you've got standard on one side, and you've got centimeters on the other, and so how do you measure out with the tape measure for those that are wondering? So like
So
as far as the
basically,
dice roll goes.
you would roll. Originally, is why I started doing the dice. For instance, for the reason is my daughter still picked the hair, so she gets 2d6. Well, when you roll your 2d6, you're gonna have to add these up, and I don't add it for her. She's 7 years old; she can add. Um, and this makes her add faster, which becomes more of a muscle memory. Is if I see these two numbers, what can I quickly add them up to and be correct, and then use that information. So let's say you roll, and I got a 5 and 3. So she's like, "Oh, I got 8." So then you would flip my camera on. Can I?
Probably won't let you with
No.
not if you're already in here.
So you would take your tape measure, and you would start from your bunny, and then you would measure out to 8, and then that's how 8 inches, and that's how far you go for each. So each number would be 1 inch,
I
and
gotcha.
it's all explained in the. I printed out like detailed rules as well. So it's all explained in the rules, and you would put your finish line however far you want to start playing. So for instance, let's say if you want a short game, then you would only put it 2 or 3 feet away, and if you wanted a long game, you put it like 5 or 6 feet away. And each person would take turns rolling their dice and measuring how many inches on the dice that they got until someone got to the end.
And then Danny D said, I have a friend who owns a board game company and specializes in startup games. Check them out. It's called Breaking Games. Tell them Sherry's friend Danny sent you.
See if I can screenshot that. There we go. There we go. All right, I screenshot that so I can try to do that.
Yeah, so that'd be definitely good for you. You know, they could get you a startup and get your game out there better.
And I've sold a couple of these, and each person that has bought them loved it with their kids, and it's a pretty reasonable price too. So for the 2 figures, which are included, the bunny and the hare, the finish line, which is also printed, the tape measure, and then also all the dice that come with it, which is a 1d12 and 2d6, all for $10.
Now, do you 3D print the dice as well, or is that something that you?
No, I could have, but I didn't know how balanced the dice roll would be. So because of that, I wanted to make sure that it would be fair enough that when you do roll, you got a fair roll.
Yeah, except for the game you got at home, right? You 3D printed those to be weighted.
Then I would have won.
Just kidding. So I'm going to roll back here a little bit.
Okay.
Where is the comment at? Let's see. Yeah, there it is. So Trish is like, oh my gosh, you made a dragon. Do you have the dragon there with you?
Hold on a second.
Yeah. I was going to say, I know you got some up there on that display case somewhere.
So I forgot about this. So this took several hours. It's multiple prints. This is actually from Dragonlock as well. So Dragonlock, you can buy different miniature STLs, which this is one of them. And this took multiple prints as well. And this, I want to say it took over 30 hours to print, just because of all the different pieces. I know, like one wing alone took, probably 10 hours.
And that's the one thing that, like you were mentioning earlier, people were selling stuff for 50 cents an hour or $1 an hour. It's
Mm,
like 3D printing is not fast. That's like that.
mm,
What is the other thing? Oh, Glowforge. You know,
mm,
it's like really cool the stuff that they make, and the same thing with 3D printers. And every time it's really misleading. You see the videos where get our 3D printer and you can
mm.
build all this cool stuff, and it shows the video of it 3D printing, and it looks like it takes like 2 minutes to 3D
Yeah.
print this super sweet
Mhm.
thing. And it's like that's a time lapse video of like 12
Yeah.
hours that it took to make that. So you're not going to be cranking out like 50 pieces in a day. That's the one thing that's really hard about 3D printing is it's a very slow process.
Yeah. Which is why I got two printers. And then my longer prints, I let them run overnight or while I'm at work, especially let's say when I was doing a lot of keychains, because some of my orders I would have large orders. So I would make sure I had multiple quantities of it printing while I was at work. Now they are in development of a printer that's on a conveyor belt. So basically, it's at a slant, and what it does is it will print your item, and then it would move slowly down, and then once it got down here, it would drop it off, and it would just continuously print. It's still in development though, so it's not it's not perfected yet. It's also going to cost a lot more as well.
See, 3D printing is excellent for prototyping for use as examples for copyright patent.
I guess that's just kind of get that base design out there. So say you have a design in your head and you want to get that patent or copyright out there, you can.
And then Wendy said, I have a feeling Russell's character needs multiple files.
Maybe it might need multiple files, and the bigger the file, the harder it is to tweak. So let's say you did get this file perfected and sent over, but then you decide that you want me on my end to change something. Well, my design program probably isn't going to be able to fix it. You have to go into a different type of design profile. For instance, Tinkercad, it's so basic of a system. If the file is bigger than 25 megabytes, it won't even accept it.
Oh yeah, and I think just the head alone was like what 79 megabytes, something like
Probably. I know when I pulled it up, it wouldn't let me do anything to it. And then when I got it on my, so let's actually talk about that. How do we get to a design to making a dragon? So once we make our design, for instance, so I made the turtle. So I designed using a bunch of different shapes I wanted a cute little turtle. So that's what I came up with. Well, now I have this design. How do I print it? So I'll take this file, this STL file, and I'll put it into a different program called, what I use is called Cura. And what Cura does is it slices that design up into your X, Y, and Z axis to tell it where to print this at. So then you'll take that STL file, you take that STL file, you put it through Cura, it'll slice it up. You put it into a micro USB drive, and then you put the USB drive into the printer, and then you print from there.
Sorry, my messages were blowing up. I figured I'd send a message back before they blow up. I'm like, I'm live right now. I'll get to you in a second. Apologies for that. It's coming over on my phone, and it's like bling, 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 bling. So yeah, so I mean that's insane. It's just insane where we've gotten from. Where you can take something like you said earlier. You took that person's logo. For those of you that weren't here earlier, he took a logo of a company and he made a raised. You still have that handy to show off?
This is actually a private everyday carry group, and they wanted their logo onto a dump tray. So I took that logo, I raised it up, and I was able to put it into the backdrop, and then I was able to put this into the actual tray. And this alone, I believe, took 12 hours to print, just because there's so much more detail to it. It's about 10, 12 hours to print. And I mean, your print time is based off of how fast and how high that layer count is. So I print at a smaller layer count, so it does take a little bit more time, but it looks more detailed. Where if you print a higher layer count, then you'll see the lines a lot more bigger. You know, it'll look blocky.
And then when you said, okay, so I need the Sierra to set it up from Daz.
Cura, if you want to slice it.
Or is that how you pronounce it? Cura?
Yeah, it's Cura. That's how you slice it.
She said that's cool. And then she said, yeah, Raziel is huge. It's a giant. So what other kind of cool stuff have you made besides? So you made the board game, you've made dragons, you made the pieces for playing. What else have you designed besides like the sword and stuff like that?
See if I can pull it up. So this is I just made this actually this week. So I'm on to different keychains. There's a little spin-off of a keychain. Guns and coffee. And it's a little Star Wars or Starbucks person holding guns up. A little more violent, but
Oh, that's all good.
so I use a base design for that and kind of made it my own. And then some of the other files that I have bought to print my own, which a lot of people do have files for sale. I just gave my buddy the biggest items that I just got done making was the Star Wars Cantina scene.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have that on readily display. I do have it on eBay up to see if someone's going to bid on it, which I did have one bid so far. And it's the whole intricate section, which I started printing some of the other ones. So it's the piping system that actually go into, which this part, the actual bar, and it actually has all the different containers that you see in the Star Wars scene on there. And that he really enjoyed that. He's like, this is gonna pop off with collectors because unfortunately, a lot of Star Wars stuff they didn't make. So, your dioramas and stuff, you have
to
missing
stuff.
Yeah, you got to get out to different creators because they didn't make this stuff, and people want they want to set up their figures in these different designs or dioramas, and it's just not out there. So that's another thing that 3D printing kind of helps out with.
And then Wendy said, I will try and resize him before I send it over or send him in pieces like a puzzle for you to Frankenstein. And then do what?
I said I'll try.
And then Danny D said, I sense Russ needing some exploding blue balls keychains now. And Wendy said, I was just thinking that. So that was a funny discussion that we had yesterday, Danny. We were talking about the exploding blue balls, and everybody loves the idea of the window cling that we did for the cross promo between Zeno Nanite Titan and Beowulf, live now on Kickstarter. Hashtag always promote. And I was like, we were talking about that last night. I was like, I totally need to get an exploding blue balls window cling. I'm like, that would be hilarious. And I don't know how many people would put it in their car windows, but it's a funny story. And hey, Teresa, good evening. I hope you're doing well. That was one of the things that was funny. So, Wendy and I and Christina Haggerty, we all had a show last year, and we were just talking about crazy stories, and things went off the rails. And we started talking about this story where, we did this professional fireworks show for a high school graduation. Well, one of the boxes blew apart and the tubes laid out across the ground. Well, they were already set to fire. So these mortars start launching out of the tubes. And, people don't know what peonies are or blue peony is. They're like, I don't know what that is. And it's just the exploding blue balls of light. So that's what I call them, So there's these exploding blue balls of light, and these cows are all running for their life. And so no cows were hurt. I always try to say that because everybody's like, oh my God, they blew up cows. So we talk about the story. So the next day, Danny D posts on my page like a set of cow balls hanging from a barbed wire fence. Well, then Christina, in all her glory, pulls it off of my page, adds an exploding blue glow around it, and then puts it back on my page. So months later down the road, Heather Ellen with Comics More Chaos, another one of the pages that we're broadcasting to right now on YouTube, uh, she's like, hey, I was talking to so and so. They're gonna start doing reviews. I'm like, why didn't you talk to me? I'll do reviews. I get all these books and stuff in. Like, I'll do reviews and live readings of them and stuff with the author and creator's permission and stuff. I was like, it will be fun. I'm like, I got it. We'll call it Blue Balls Reviews. I've already got the image because Christina took care of it for me. And I was like, I'll be the host, Harry Sachs. So I wear this wonderful wig right here, and I become Harry Sachs on Saturday nights. And we do the review show, so it's called Blue Balls Review. So I was like, we were cracking up last night. I was like, we got to get window clings made up of this, like, and make this a thing. And so now they're already plotting for me to get keychains too. I'm gonna have a whole freaking line of memorabilia before April hits. Trish, blue blinking ball keychain. Yes, and invoice me now for 2 of them. God. We've already sold some, and we haven't even made them yet.
I did make different Marvel ones too. I forgot about.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's both sides. It's a little bit split together.
That's really cool.
And then these everyday carry groups, they're all in a different like paracords and stuff as well, and different beads. So just made. This is somebody else's print, but they left it open to anybody to print. It's like a little shark bomb.
That's cool.
Amazing little different things you can print. And I'm always looking for other ideas too. So some of my prints were just, hey, what would you like to see me print? And I try to make up the design. It'd be perfect for what they wanted. For instance, somebody wanted they wanted name tags for their wires. They had a bunch of different cords that for their kids' chargers, phone chargers. Can you print something to put their names on these charging cords? I'm like, well, I'll try, and it actually came out pretty good. I don't have examples of those either, but I believe they might be on my regular main website, and it was just different little labels that had their names on it. And then the same person came back to me and said, it's my son's birthday coming up, and he's big into Zelda. So that is on my site, which is a
Triforce.
It's a Zelda Triforce. And what I did was I took this Triforce and then I was able to insert his name into the top of the Triforce. So you had your cake topper, and it was on a stand that I made as well that's already into it. So you have a cake topper, and then when you're done eating the cake and you're done, he was able to take it and put it on his shelf to display it as well. So now it's a display model after it was a cake topper.
That's really cool. That's an awesome idea. We may have to talk about that because someone's birthday is coming up in 3 weeks, and he's big into Pokemon. He's going to be 6, so I may have to talk to you about that.
I mean, I already have a Bulbasaur file.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Hey, you already got the Bulbasaur file, so that would be perfect. Because we're not doing anything big. We're staying home, and that's one of the things that we're doing is instead of buying decorations and stuff like that, we're gonna go buy some Pokemon toys and some stuffies and hang them up around the house. And that way, when we're done, instead of tearing down decorations and throwing them away, this is all stuff that either he can play with or stuffed animals that he can put in his net up in his room, and he can have pretend Pokemon battles and all that fun stuff. So it's been about an hour, so I definitely want to let you go because I'm sure you've got work and you got printing to get back to and all that cool stuff. So definitely had a great time with you tonight. I love some of the stuff that you're working on. I definitely hope people that have watched this video and the people that are watching this video back come and check your stuff out because it's really cool, some of the stuff that you're making. And where some of the stuff's going to go in the next few years. And I'm uber excited to get this the sculpture thing figured out. But I'm going to give you the full screen. I want to give you a chance to let everybody know where they can find you and how they can get a hold of you.
Okay. So since I got the full screen, we'll make it easy. Tant 3D Prints. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm also have a full website, tant3prints.square.site. And if you're on social media and you see some items that you like, or just want you have ideas of something that you wanted printed or that you've seen other people print, just let me know, and we can work something out. I can show you the design I want. I've also made several designs from people from scratch that were just not designed yet, and they're very happy with their items.
So cool. Yeah, I definitely think Trish and Mike, one of them will hit you up for some weighted dice so they can cheat against the other one in their tabletop games that they play. I know how you guys are. They'll probably both order one and be like, ha ha ha, and then they'll both have weighted dice.
Well, this is actually for the tabletop games. I don't know if y'all heard of Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven is one of my favorite tabletop games right now. And for instance, someone made a card holder for Gloomhaven to kind of hold all the cards and items and stuff a little bit easier. And Gloomhaven. And yeah, I don't get any incentives for Gloomhaven, but it has this has all the tile pieces and all the different hit points and markers that you need. And I really like the game, but just any type of war game that you have, you can you can make different models, containers, holders, health bar, meters, experience tally markers, all these different items to kind of help you out and kind of declutter the area as well.
That's awesome. And then Danny D posted the link there of how you can get a hold of Sherry at breakinggames.com.
Okay.
So thanks a lot for being on here tonight and talking about your wares. It was really cool getting to talk to you and seeing some of the behind the scenes stuff of what kind of things people can actually 3D print. So definitely people check out the stuff that he has to offer. If you're looking to get something made up, contact him and he can help you figure out what you guys need to do and what you need to get and how to make it happen. Definitely a cool idea for crowdfunding. I mean, when I seen that, that was the first thing I thought of, and that was the first thing that Trish thought of when she came on.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of potential for these crowdfunding campaigns for people to get stuff done for your campaign as stretch goal items, keychains, and the whole works. So definitely check it out, guys. Mark, I'm going to send you to the back room for just a second. I'm going to tell everybody my goodbyes, and I'll be back with you in just a minute.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for being on.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. Oh, look at you, Jack, coming in late. That's it. You're fired. Thanks, everyone, for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. Thanks for checking out the stuff that he has to offer. Tant's 3D Prints. Go check it out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Tant's 3D Prints at squares.site. So the links are in the comments. I posted some of them. The link is in the description for the Facebook page. Go check it out. There's a lot of cool stuff on there that he's printed up. Keychains, even for Valentine's Day, he had a really cool heart keychain he was adding in with orders. Check out the Revenge of the Tortoise, the board game that he has to offer. And sorry, comments just went crazy. So thanks a lot for being here. As always, Russ Explode Studios, projects that blow your mind. You all have a great night. And my computer just locked up, so we will have a good night here in just a second. Good night, everybody.